Hey guys, welcome back to Life Untangled. I am your boy KC.
And I'm Shane. Thank you guys for joining us on our godly platform to inspire, evolve. I was gonna say elevate. Okay, no, that part, just that part. Thank you guys for joining us on our godly platform to inspire, evolve, and share all of our transparencies.
Yes, and in today's episode, today's podcast is going to be about what is a man and a woman's role. What is the man? What is the wife's role? The man's role.
He messed up.
Tootsie roll?
No. Basically, it's going to be touching on the topic of the individual roles we play or function within relationships and how to find a healthy balance, which is very important when you get into any relationship, whether that be marriage or just simply dating, but the rules more so that we're going to share today are going to, I would say, elaborate more and share just things that we've learned along our marriage of 17 years together and how to just keep your relationship on a healthy balance.
Yeah, we are 5-star generals. We are veterans in the game.
I wouldn't say all that.
No, we
I would say when you
game.
have like 25 plus.
No. We got some years and experience, right? Everybody can give their advice. Personally, for me, if you only been married 1 or 2 years, you don't really have nothing to say.
Oh yeah, of course. You're
That's
new.
just me.
You're
new to the game. You have certain experience, but like you can't be like telling people like, oh well, this is like, you only got 2 years in the game. You're still in that phase of lovey-doveyness, even though we always are loving on each other.
Yeah.
But I just think that,
and that's an important key that he touched on. We'll share more on that.
I just think you for any marriage you need a certain amount of growth and experience before you can start delivering words of wisdom.
Yeah.
Right.
You need to be a good swimmer. You can't just be, in the pool holding on to the edges, just learning. It's like a baby. You learn how to creep first or crawl and then stand up on your 2 feet. And if your child's different and not like ours where they didn't even really crawl. They just got up on their toes and started walking.
Yeah.
But I think everyone has a different scope and just different advice that they can give from their own personal experiences on, relationships they've been in, how they've evolved, what they've taken from it, learned. So that's what we're doing today. We're going to talk on it and share our points of views on what keeps healthy relationships and knowing the part that you play, more so when it comes to the male and female. Sorry, y'all got that.
Yeah. Every person within the relationship needs to be in their lane, so to speak.
Respectfully.
Yeah. But like any highway, you can always come over to the lane, but you got to signal first.
That's good. That's a good one. Yeah, that's actually good.
Right.
So what would you say from what you've learned when we came together and, went from dating to marriage and then evolved into what we have now? What would you say from a man's perspective, the role of a man is in comparison to what society's views are or what their singularities or expectations are? Because we all know growing up, being a child, being an adult, there's always some sort of expectation you have to live up to or carry or follow through with. What would you give as a pointer as to the role a man plays in carrying out a healthy relationship with his woman, whether it be wife or, from a husband's perspective?
A man, just like a woman, has many responsibilities, right? Protector, provider, wisdom gatekeeper. We all in society rules it states like, oh, a man needs to do this, and you got to be a man's man. Like, in some way is right. Like, you know, I'm a man's man. Like, you know, she has to calm me down in certain situations. However, you know, a man first and foremost has to be able to take initiative and lead their family through the wilderness, through trials, through tribulations, and give the family and the wife the assurance that everything's going to be okay.
Okay. And how would you say you came to that growth and that wisdom, especially for men out there that grew up not having a father around, to set that example? Because I think that plays a big role, you know, in both a male's perspective as well as a woman's, growing up and not having that particular parent that you look up to, that you try to imitate, you know?
Unfortunately, like a lot of kids get caught up in the streets, right? So if they don't have that positive male figure to look up to, they're gonna look to the next source, right? And it's
like
usually
friends and stuff like that you would say, or old school way of saying it, influence you.
Yeah, it would be, you know, friends, older kids. You know, you could be like 12 years old and someone who's like 13 or 14, you looking at them not in like a father figure, but, you know, they got a little bit more wisdom than you, and they're educating you to the streets and how to communicate, how to like talk to women. And in some way, shape, or form, that's not correct,
right?
Because, you know, they're just following the same brokenness that they're coming from. So it's just leading you on their same path, where it's like studies show that, like, you know, boys who have their father, they grow up a little bit more well-rounded. You know, there's some variations, you know, stuff happens, but for the most part, men who have their fathers grow up knowing what to do.
Right, having an example set for them.
Right. You know, I, you know, was graced to have several men and women to look to for guidance, right? And it's you know, I could have went down like a crazy
any path, of course.
And you know, that's the rhetoric that, you know, a lot of, you know, young men follow. They just didn't have that mentorship, and that's what it really is just mentorship.
Right.
Someone who is showing you how to do things, so you don't make mistakes.
So you don't repeat, the same generational pattern or same outcome to life, or that they've seen occur.
Correct.
So all the things you listed, because you listed quite a few, you know, that the man's role is to be provider, protector, all these things. Which one would you think, or would you say to the man out there as advice, that you feel is like the first? How would you compact it as a man, like being from the more traditional take? What would you say is the number one component out of those that you listed?
The number one component.
Or would you just say it's important to be just as well-rounded as possible as you can be?
I think it is. There isn't one component that's, I think, better than the other, because they all are needed, right? You can't just say, oh, well, you got to be a protector, because as a man, you have to be an excellent communicator, right? If you know how to communicate, you can avoid a lot of fights and battles, right? True. However, you have to know how to sense, okay, well, the communication is not working, so what is this person going to do? And you have to be
That's
prepared.
an excellent way to put that.
For that circumstance. So, like, everything kind of goes hand in hand. We're learning how to effectively communicate, knowing how to be the protector, knowing how to fight, and you don't like have to always win, but it's knowing how to defend yourself, right? You can fight against 2 or 3 dudes, but okay, I'm gonna say I might lose, but those dudes, one of those dudes is gonna get broken up. So like, it's like, well, you lost, but like, yo, man, another dude was like, he was like limping away. You gotta.
But let's talk now, not in reference of street talk, because obviously you come from New York. That's where he's from, the Bronx.
The Bronx.
So you're taught to have a thick skin, be able to stand ground when needed for your female and all that. But let's talk about, as you start to mature, because now you're at a mature age where it's not even that necessary because so much has changed in society now. Let's look at it from the perspective of the protection that you cover your wife with, from a different perspective. Like, how do you protect her besides just being like guarded and ready to fight? Like,
no, you gotta like protect her.
I feel there are other ingredients, that are necessary. Having a woman, just like a man, have to have that ability to support one another through, other techniques, sensitivity, like how can you talk to them from what angle without, there's many people that rush into conversations as a married couple that they cut throat versus before I come to my husband with this conversation, how do I word it for him? There's a lot of components that go into it,
Yeah, like again, that comes from communicating with different individuals, because it's not going to just be one. Like, you can have your dad, like my dad is an excellent communicator. However, I grew up around other males who added a different component that I didn't see.
Right. Okay.
Right. So, there's a lot of dudes that I grew up with, like really smooth talking, who wasn't, everyone I grew up with was from the Bronx or from Queens. And there's a certain vernacular, right? Yo, what's good, son, this and that, right? And that was like my boys. But when I got around older kids who were, 5-7 years older than me, they just were very well spoken. And they knew how to, when you with your friends, you communicate one way, but when you talking business, they shifted a bit. Not like being fake, but when in Rome, you got to do as the Romans, right?
So I love that you're saying that. You're basically, it sounds to me like you're saying, and for me, this is key. An important ingredient in a relationship is also adaptability.
Oh yeah, most
being
definitely.
able to mold yourself to not just people in your environment, but to your partner. Being able to know the scales, like keeping the scales.
Yeah, like, and again, everybody's from different regions, right? And, people from New York, they're gonna know if they're in a certain environment or around a certain group of people, even if like someone comes in, there's like a vibe. So you immediately kind of like are aware to see, okay, what's going on. Like, when I first met her family, it was like, yo, he's so quiet. Like, why is he? And it's just, I'm not saying all New Yorkers are quiet like me, but I'm the type of person that I sit back and I observe how people communicate, who's the loudmouth, who's this, who's that, and know where I can take, because I'm very jovial. Most New Yorkers are very like
teaseful.
We will just
and I'm used to it because being Caribbean and Latin, the men are the same. They're always being goofy and joking around.
But there's like unspoken rules, right? So if I don't know you too well, I'm not going to start saying slick stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I've seen it. It's not happened to me because I'm very observant. But I've seen, what you say? You don't know me, man. And it just is like, like that's not going to be a good look. So I've learned to just keep my mouth closed and let me observe who's around, right? And that translates to women, to my wife. There's times where I can be very jokeful and then I sense a vibe and I'm like, I can joke, but I don't think this is the right time or place because she might be like, on
That's
me.
good.
So I've learned to kind of like gauge in and I can feel like, okay, well, there's something on her mind. Let me not talk. Let me just give action and just give her a hug. Let me reassure her like, everything's going to be all right. I'm here if you want to talk, and I'll just.
So that's that supportive language that we're coming to.
And
right
that's just, my take, because I'm very adaptful. I learned to be adaptful, and I think, many people who grew up in certain situations, they just see like, okay, I know I could take it here, or I know I'm not going to take it here. I'm just going to stay in my lane over here.
Yeah, that's good.
And that's just my vibe. Like, I've met people where they try to like snap on me and I'm just quiet because I'm like, no, I can just really go in on you, but I don't know you too well. So I'll let you have that one.
Yeah.
The next time it's not going to be that way, but I try to build relationships and not destroy them in the first, 5, 10,
you want to
half hour.
You want to give an opportunity as well.
Right.
To be able to see what an individual or person is about, So that was really good. So those are your
just small little pieces
on what a man's
and
role should be in the relationship. Having the ability to be moldable, I would say, adaptable, mold himself to what the relationship needs for the woman as well as for him to be able to have excellent communication, allow the man to be a provider, protector. What else did you say? I think
provider,
perfecter,
protector, reassure, like a man, supportive.
That's the word I had used. Supportive language.
Yeah. So a man has a lot of hidden responsibilities that, we play like a lot of different positions in the game of relationships, and it's just how we're built, where we can just kind of like mold in, and some men need more help than others because like they weren't taught that, or they're just at a certain maturity level where they're like
they don't want to put the work in. They don't want to put the work in, and that's actually something that I was going to add in for relationships. It's about the growth factor occurs when you're willing, because honestly the truth is, to anything in life you have to have the desire and be willing to put in the work, put in the work, because a lot of girls are growing up even in this generation now feeling like they have to have the princess lifestyle. They're growing up very sensitive and also feeling like they have to have this princess fairy tale type relationship, when the truth is marriage or any relationship is about work. It's about being able to find a cohesive balance, about meeting in the middle. There's, like my husband said, there's so many key factors that play a major role in both parties or both individuals' role for it to function properly, for you to be able to navigate in the relationship. I would say another thing is, from a woman's perspective, is, as well as a man's, but more so woman. Y'all gonna get mad at me, ladies, but keep it real. My husband has this joke he saw on TikTok. It's like emotional damage.
Emotional damage!
And I think women, because we have a multitude of faces we have to carry throughout the day, from mother to wife to daughter to worker to businesswoman to everything, role model. it's a lot. It's for some people it's overwhelming. You carry a lot on the shoulders, and for men too. But we grind so much in all these areas to be able to perfectly balance them that we lose the momentum of controlling our emotions. Woman, my husband always says this too, like, how's it you say it, that a woman's led by her instinctive emotions?
Yeah, women are led
tap
by
into
their
that more.
emotions, and men are led by logic.
Right.
Right? That's just how we are made. And the role of each one is to kind of cohesively knit between each other.
Right.
Right? So I have to get some of her emotion, so I'm not a biological android. And she has to get my logic, so she's not over emotional and make poor judgments.
Exactly. So I feel with that, you know, as women, we all will have our days, our moments, our ups and our downs. And in that, it's important for us to look within, look within and be able to say, you know what, I'm having this moment. Let me bring it to my husband and explain what I'm feeling at the moment, so that you don't allow it to fester and then grow into this, what leads to arguments or disruption and separation in a lot of relationships. The same thing goes for a woman with the emotion. Not only do we react so quickly off of our emotions and don't carry the thought process that, you know what, I'm feeling this way, so because I'm feeling this way, I'm just gonna blow up or like throw it off on someone else. And that sometimes ends up being the target is your husband, your children. So what we put out, just like a man, it will cause a ripple effect is what I'm trying to say. So it's always important to be able to know from where are you projecting anger or an attitude for the day. For some women, it's like, oh, I'm on my monthly, and they get rageful. For some, they don't have that. So I do get all those things somewhere. For some women, they'll blame it on hormonal imbalances or whatever it may be for the day. But it's being able to navigate your emotions and have a better understanding of what's triggering it before tossing it, onto your partner.
Well, sometimes, like, some women may not even know what's triggering it, right?
That too,
A lot of it is psychological, where they don't know why they're behaving that way. Mm-hmm. And it's up to sometimes...
Which is why I said hormonal imbalances, because that's usually a huge hidden factor with a lot of women's health, and we don't even know why we're acting out the way we do.
Well, it could be hormonal imbalance, but sometimes like certain phrases, certain things just set off certain women, mm-hmm. and they don't even know why they're getting mad at it.
Right, and it could be trauma. You mean like triggered trauma, or something that comes up from your childhood, something that causes you to react because of an experience you may have had in the past. So a lot goes into it, but we're not elaborating on it too deep because then
I'm saying is that like
long video. Part
of the role of the man is if, for example, you get rageful and you start attacking someone, mm-hmm. right? You attack anyone, they're going to fight back. But sometimes it's not necessary to fight. Sometimes it's best to kind of say, okay, let me try and calm the person down and show them what they're doing and try to find out the cause. Because it's not, sometimes, women, will blow up and it's like, yo, it's not that serious. And men will do the same thing. They blowing up.
Yeah.
And a woman's like, yo, it's not that serious. Why you doing that? Mm-hmm. So that's the role for both men and women, is to kind of help stitch and weave each other's
finding a healthy, cohesive,
to find out what's that flaw
and work on it. Work on it, because everything is layers. A lot of the times things are not a quick fix. It's the layers and the components behind it. Everything that brings it together to be able to get to the root cause of where these issues come from.
Everyone's behavior is due to how they grew up, where they grew up and who they grew up with. And people think it's normal, right? Like, New Yorkers know, right? We just walk in and we'll just spit a loogie out in the street. Someone else who's not from New York, they're like, yo, that's disgusting. And you'd be like, well, what are you talking about? We do this all the time.
Because it's habit, right? It's the environment you grew up in.
Right.
So it's totally normal to you guys.
Exactly.
Versus,
disgusting for someone else.
Yeah.
And it's just trying to identify, like, well, where did this come from? Like, do I even care to change? It's like, oh yeah, like, it is kind of disgusting. Like I've grown to the point where maybe in New York, I'm gonna keep it real. I'll do it, right? But if I'm in LA or if I'm elsewhere, I kind of will not. I'll try and it's like, nah, this isn't New York. Like, New York is just so grimy. It's just like, whatever.
Yeah.
So in
Well,
LA.
it depends on the location.
Yeah, I mean, but.
Let's not get it twisted. NYC has some beautiful areas too, like that,
Very true. So, like, maybe.
You're not going to behave that way in that barrio.
Yeah, maybe in Martha's Vineyard, they'd be like, all right, do you have a bathroom? Because I have to,
Clear
spit it out. But, it's just learning to identify those things and
those triggers
and see is that conducive for my growth or for who I am now? Do I absolutely need it? Where did it come from?
Addressing it as a whole, addressing it as a whole. And I don't know if you agree, but I'm sure you will. For us, it's important to we've always done this is respecting one another individually as who you are, like not drowning each other out either. Because when you go into a relationship, yes, you become one, but you're also still an individual, So it's knowing what are his likes and his dislikes in the sense of, it can't always be about one person. It can't be one-sided. So it's yin and yang and the putting in the effort that he knows I love to dance. He doesn't dance. He learned to dance. So he puts in that I gotta keep it real. He puts in that extra effort to dance with me sometimes, or take me dancing
wait,
dance salsa or Arthur Murray's dance studio and take a class. For me, I know he loves cinematography and movies. So I dive into his world and I'm like a student. I want to learn how does the camera work or what lights are using. What is that?
Hold up. First of all, your boy can dance.
Bachata.
What?
Wait, merengue. Salsa? No.
Wait a minute. So you saying I wasn't doing, kizomba?
You're making me turn red.
I wasn't doing the kizomba?
No.
What?
No.
I was doing some kizomba.
You could do the old school, dance moves.
Your boy know how to dance, right? Is this a different scope, right? She's like a classically trained ballerina. She knows everything. So like, how
that has nothing.
No. I'm gonna give you.
It has nothing to do with having rhythm. Hold on. I know ballerinas that cannot salsa or flamenco or nothing.
No, she's like, all right, fellas, right? You in the club, you dancing, you go get up to the girl, and you like,
take a call while he goes on.
Just like, hey, right? And then you don't know that this girl, she's a dancer, right? There's some girls who dance and, they'll whine and they'll push it back, right? She'll do that and then, boom, start low and start doing
we don't need to go into the old
these.
school stuff.
No, like she's not old school.
She's sharing too much TMI.
She'll start like doing all these like flexibility off on 12, you know what I mean? So like, I'm like, whoa. Like, my knee might shoot out the socket. You know what I mean? I can't get that low.
No,
and
but
she's
seriously,
like, whoa,
wait.
boom, boom, boom.
Seriously though, what I'm trying to get to is not that he can't dance. He can dance. He can definitely dance. It's just putting in the effort as a couple to meet each other on the in the areas that we enjoy the most. I make time to learn with him everything about movies. Well, I love movies, but everything about movies, lighting, cinematography, how to write a script, all those things I'm developing because I put that attention and that willingness to enjoy what he also enjoys, and vice versa. He pours that into me. So I would say that's also very important as a couple, is being able to give and take what you need. It's not like if you're a woman that loves shopping all day and you want your husband to go with you all day to the mall every Friday from 5 to 9 when it closes, the man's eventually going to get tired of that because you're making it about just your enjoyment. That's why a relationship, it takes work to allow it to evolve and grow and get to that stage of, just being together on one, in oneness, one accord, and prayer, and also the power of praying for one another. And for me, it's a powerhouse to pray for one another, love on one another. And key thing, learning how to, and we teach our children this, not hold things so long that it poisons your day-to-day routine or your relationship, meaning being able to love each other from a forgiveness, from an open heart place where, I come from, I don't know if I should say it like this, but it's hard for people to genuinely, it's not so much like forgive, but like forgive and be able to not have bad intentions for your partner. There's people that get mad about something their partner does, and they'll be mad for days on end or weeks, and it just sits around and festers, and it makes it just difficult, so it's learning how to be able, if he corrects me and says, hey honey, mi amor, whatever, you're doing this and I'm trying to show you it, because a lot of times we don't see ourselves, is being able to accept what the person's saying from their perspective and work on it. Be okay with the challenges that are necessary to make the change.
I think that part comes with growth and maturity. There's some people, certain men and women who from the gate, they have that level of maturity and they just, whatever.
Yeah.
And there's other people who it just festers in them, because sometimes it's just like certain men and women will just get out of pocket. They'll say certain things that is like, whoa, 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 really? And that right there starts questioning, I'm gonna speak for myself. We start questioning like, well, wait a minute, where's this coming from? And I guess certain people governed by rules, and like, I wouldn't say certain things, but if someone says that to me, I'm just like, oh, so we going there. So the gloves is going to come off. It always ends up being like a tit for tat. And I've learned, is it necessary? Right? If we're again, if you're not married, do you, whatever. But if you're married, you've chosen the option to be together till death do us part,
yeah.
Right? So is that a deal breaker, right? Sometimes you have to say, all right, I'm going to take an L on this one purposely, because I know if I go back at the person, it's not going to be pretty, and then we'll both lose.
Right.
So sometimes it's better that one person, you got to be big enough to say, yo, I'll lose this one.
So you're saying know how to choose your battles, like have tact behind if a battle is even worth it, or a tit for tat.
Yeah, and that goes along with what I said in the beginning, that like knowing communication, knowing how to communicate and when to communicate, right? Because certain, you can be explosive, men and women.
Both, yeah, both parties.
And if the man is explosive and then the woman kicks it up another notch, the relationship is going to be done. You're both going to die. Right? An eye for an eye, we both lose our sight, right?
Yes.
So sometimes it's better to just I'm just going to just keep quiet because I know, no one wants to lose, but I know I'll win. And it's like, okay, I'll win, but what will be the cost of winning?
And that plays, as what he's sharing, that goes for both parties. That goes for male and female.
Correct.
So it's, I always say another thing that's big in our relationship that we've always expressed is supporting one another. And that refers to supporting one another in any which way, when it comes to work, a work scenario, when it comes to the house scenario, when it comes to the children, being on the same page where you're able to know each other's routine so well because you're in tune with each other, that if one is unable to, the other one automatically goes into play. So if I see my husband setting up, for instance, for a shoot, or he's doing something, I'm the type of wife, I jump into action. I'm like, what can I do? What do you need? Can I set this up? Do you want me to set this up? I'm not waiting or hesitating or delaying because I already know his format to getting his stuff done. If he sees, I'm cooking, or he sees, I'm preparing 2-3 meals, because sometimes we all don't want to eat the same thing. So I'm the type that I like to prep in advance. He'll come in, and if he sees me preparing the vegetables, he's on the other counter already helping me chop up stuff or whatnot, and vice versa.
Yeah,
we're like, we see, well, how does it work? How is it that we word it? That
I would say is like a spatial awareness, right? Because at the end of the day, you can't be too blind to see what's going on, right? So if I see my wife's in her room being creative, she's writing, and I'm like, all right, well, it's getting a little bit late. Let me just start something, right? So when she comes out, you just saved me
he
like
starts
15,
and I'm
20
in the
minutes
flow.
of standing up.
Yeah,
So
and
now,
I jump right into the flow with him, and I'm like, I didn't catch hold of the time or whatnot. And same thing with him. Sometimes he's in his creative flow,
right?
That I'm already working on things that need to get done. But I think that's very important. Like, you find somebody that can flow easy with you in the kitchen where you're not even showing them how to do or what to do. They just go into that extra up gear. I think that's like super, super essential. I think you got a winner when you find that, when you're able to, and same thing for the guy. We work so genuinely easy together in the kitchen, when it comes to the children, sharing our ideas, our thoughts, our prayer goals, our artistic, things, that I think that makes for a healthy balance. You just have to find what fits you and how to mold and be able to be adaptable when it comes to playing the role that you're carrying as both female and male, or wife and husband. So a lot goes into it. There isn't a one-way road, I would say. There's no such thing as a perfect relationship. It's just being able to find what works for you, doing so respectfully, and knowing that in mind, you should always have the goal for both of you to grow and be the best version of yourselves, as well as keeping God. We, definitely keep God in the midst of everything we do.
Again, I think, for me, I look at, or now, I really look at our relationship as a corporation, right? And the corporation, the business, has to succeed on every level, right?
Yeah.
So we both play the role of CEO, right? I may be the CEO and she's the CFO, right? Chief Financial Officer. And, her role is to give me advice and I give her advice, but both advice will elevate the company, right? So everything is, not unfortunately, but it's work. So it's just like, okay, well, I'm doing this, she's doing that. You know, we both have to check on each other to see.
Yeah, do check-ins with each other. That's really important.
This, you know, are you being productive, right? What value are you whatever you're doing, is it bringing value to the company? If not, you may like it, but maybe you need to put it aside for later to get certain things accomplished first, and then you can go back to it. So I see a lot of couples, they're operating on that same level, right? So it's very cohesive, and as soon as you get too over emotional, that's when things start to chip away at the foundation. So both of y'all have to be able to know how to communicate and know when to communicate to keep the cohesion company of marriage constantly elevating.
Right, to keep weaving in those strands that make it stronger, build a stronger foundation. We have a lot more we can share, but I think that will be all for our segment today, or episode.
Okay, well, if you like this episode, do not forget to give us a thumbs up, subscribe down below. Let us know in the comments what you think.
And remember to turn on your notifications, so every video we bring out, if you enjoy it, you can just click play and watch us.
And don't forget, you're viewing this on YouTube or Instagram, but we are on Spotify, Apple Music, Patron, if you want to support us.
Yes.
We're on iTunes. No, that's Apple Music.
Apple Music.
No, Apple Podcasts.
There you go.
So.
And also, podcasts.
Right. So
there's too many platforms.
The links are down below. I'm gonna put them down below so you can see where we're at. Don't forget to, again, give us a thumbs up and just show us some love. And don't forget to subscribe to Life Untangled.
And once again, thank you guys for joining us on our godly platform to inspire, evolve, and share all our transformations.